Coming up.
Among the many things involved in breeding cattle is what you feed them. Research has developed any number of new options that help us raise better beef and raise it more economically. Of course, one of the things are all of the new mineral and feed options.
See how one all-season cattle mineral is benefiting a seed stock producer in Kansas. Next on The American Rancher. Hello, I'm Pam Minnick, and welcome to The American Rancher. Today we're at the Laue Ranch in north central Kansas. There, Brant Laue raises white, red, and black Charolais seed stock as a third-generation cattleman. Brant's Charolais program follows a tradition of innovation on the Laue Ranch that began when Charolais were first introduced to the American beef industry.
Laue Ranch got its start in the late 1950s when my dad returned from the United States Navy, serving in the Korean War. His lifelong dream was to raise purebred cattle, and in the 1950s, that meant either Angus, Herefords, or Shorthorn, and he chose Hereford. And he went out and bought a Turner Ranch Hereford bull, that was the hot genetics in those days, and spent his entire life savings on it at that point in his life, $600. And turned that bull out with a group of cows that he bought. He cut down trees to create the feed bunks and leased the ground. And the first winter that he owned that Hereford bull, he walked out on the icy river, Little Blue River, and fell through the ice and was lost. And so my father's dream of raising Hereford cattle ended almost immediately, but he needed a bull to breed his cows. And at that time, there was a new breed that had been introduced into the United States, Charolais. And he went to Missouri, to the Litton Ranch, and bought his first Charolais bull from Charlie Litton, and brought that bull home and bred the same group of cows. And a year later, when those calves grew out, they reached the same weight and size as the calves out of the Hereford bull that were a year older. And Dad said, there's something going on here. I think I'm going to breed purebred Charolais cattle. And so that's how the Laue Ranch Charolais business started. Our original cattle all came from the famous herds in Texas, 4T Ranch and Michaelis Ranch. At that point in the Charolais business, all of the cattle in America traced to a small group that had been imported through Mexico in the 1940s, the Pugibet herd. Mr. Pugibet had seen these cattle in France when he served in World War I. And all the cattle in America traced to those cattle. So there was a fair amount of breeding up. Those Charolais bulls would be used on Angus and Hereford cows and create half-bloods, then three-quarter, then 15/16, and finally, eventually, purebreds. So that was the base of our herd until a major development in the cattle business in the 1960s. The end of hoof and mouth disease in Europe allowed new Charolais cattle, full French purebred Charolais cattle, to be imported from France. And the first cattle were brought in from France to Canada in about 1966. They were quarantined on an island off of the east coast of Canada called Grosse Ile, and came to the mainland after quarantine and were allowed to breed. The first 3 bull calves out of those cows were offered at an auction in Calgary, Canada in the summer of 1967. And the whole cattle industry was talking about it because it was the first new blood to have been brought to North America in many, many decades. My dad and his partners went to that sale. It was called the World Charolais Sale in Calgary, and bought 2 of those first 3 bull calves. The first one was a bull named Agalon Jr. Agalon Jr. was brought back to America, where he became the winningest Charolais show bull of 1968 and 69 when he was reserve grand champion at 5 major shows before he was a year of age. The second bull was a bull that would change our family's life. He was named Bo Ivo. And on the day he was a year old, he set the world record yearling weight, weighing 1,579 pounds at a year of age. Now, we have to remember that this was an era in the American cattle industry when several of the traditional breeds had just had a genetic crisis because of dwarfism. And it was unheard of to have an animal, a beef animal, weigh 1,579 pounds at a year of age. A very good friend of my dad's said, I just had this great bull that weighed 1,200 and I thought I was doing something. So Bo Ivo became an instant celebrity in the cattle business. And in fact, a few months later, one of the partners decided to have a dispersal sale. And at the Laue Ranch dispersal sale outside of Wichita in the summer of 1968, that 1/3 interest in Bo Ivo sold for $85,000, making him the first $250,000 bull in the beef cattle industry, and of course made his celebrity even larger at that point. Bo Ivo was in the early days of artificial insemination, and he overnight became a sensation in that world as well. I believe he has now over 3,000 registered progenies with the American Charolais Association. He has progeny all over the world, and if you look at the pedigrees of our cow herd even today, notwithstanding the fact that that's 40 years ago, you'll find him way back in those pedigrees. As the Charolais breed progressed, the polled gene became more significant, and polled cattle were introduced later in the 60s, early 70s, and we had some of the leading polled sires, a bull named Fame, who sired winners of the Kansas Bull Test 4 or 5 years in a row. And then we noticed in the 1980s and 1990s that many of our customers, some of whom had been with us for several generations and were the grandchildren of the original bull buyers, were keeping heifers and finding that their cow herd was turning white. And for commercial breeders, they wanted a little more color in their cow herds. At the same time, we learned that Canadian breeders had had the same experience because Charolais were the predominant beef breed in Canada. Those Canadian breeders had developed a strain of Charolais that was not white. They were developing what were called red factor cattle, that as you bred them together, they became darker and darker over time. That interested us and looked to us like an opportunity to develop a diverse customer base without changing to another breed. And so back from Canada came 3 trailer loads of red Charolais that are the core of what today is now a significant percentage of our cow herd, purebred red Charolais. The Canadians also found that as you bred those cattle to each other, they got darker and darker until in the mid-1990s, a black animal was born. Not surprisingly, they named her Black Beauty. Because of the rising popularity of black-hided cattle in America, it occurred to us that this was a development that we could perhaps use in our genetic program. And so some of the first embryos out of Black Beauty came to the United States and resulted in a herd sire for us. And we found that just as the Canadians had, that the cattle became darker over time, and soon you had a significant genetic base for black cattle. And today, about half of our herd are purebred black Charolais. When you go to a car dealership, all of the cars aren't the same color. So one of the things that we're able to offer cattlemen and cattlewomen is colored Charolais genetics that match their cow herd. You don't have to always have a white. You can have a red or a black. The acceptance that we've had for our red and black Charolais has been tremendous. Since the 1950s, Laue Ranch has marketed purebred cattle into 30 states, Canada, and Mexico. We especially find that customers love the advantages of our black Charolais on cows in the southeast that have Brahma influence, that have the Brangus influence. So what we offer to our customers, at least from the colors perspective, is all of the traditional advantages of a Charolais animal. They have the weight, they have the performance, they have the feed conversion, and they have the muscling. But we've added one thing to the genetic selection process, and that's color. You can get that in a red package or a black package, and of course we still have the traditional white cattle available as well. We sell our cattle by private treaty, and so we have a face-to-face individual relationship with our customers. Quite often they come to the ranch. You can look at our cattle on your own time schedule, at your own convenience, and we can tell you about them. If you like a bull, we can take you out to the pasture and show you his mother. Now on the flip side, we also sell cattle to a lot of folks via the internet. Among the many things involved in breeding cattle is what you feed them. And technology and research has developed any number of new options that help us raise better beef and raise it more economically. And of course, one of the things are all of the new mineral and feed options available from folks like Purina. and we've used that to our advantage.
After the break,
Not just seeing it on a commercial or advertisement, but seeing the actual results on paper in the form of added pounds at weaning time or conception rate.
producing top Charolais genetics means implementing industry-leading nutrition programs. Hear more about that when the American Rancher continues. Welcome back to the American Rancher. The Laue Ranch in north central Kansas develops elite Charolais genetics that benefit their customers not only with Charolais traits, but also by producing red and black-hided cattle. A lot goes into developing Laue Ranch's Charolais bulls so they perform consistently for their customers. And like with all ranches, that's where a strong nutrition program is important.
No business can be successful without great people. And we're very proud of the team that we've assembled over the years here at Laue Ranch. And an important part of that team is Brant Laue. Brant's a local young man, but got his education here at Hanover and also in the Southeast Community College. He knows production agriculture very well, and he has taken to purebred cattle like a duck to water. And one of the things that is great about the purebred business is that we know our genetics and we know our cow herd quite often as individuals. And you know somebody loves what they're doing when they can spout off cows' numbers just off the tip of their tongue. And Brent, within a year or so of being here, could talk about cow 8357 or cow 414 or cow 211 like he'd known them their whole life.
We had many opportunities at Laue Ranch in my first 6 months to learn and improve the herd, beginning with the use of a mineral package and new feed sources. We began exploring different options to incorporate a total mineral package instead of just seasonal use of minerals. In the year 2022, we began a full mineral package on the Laue Ranch herd in hopes to achieve a 365-day calving interval, increase the conception rates of the second calf cow, and increase weaning weights. Through my previous experiences and with field tests here at the ranch, we chose Purina's line of minerals to meet our goals. Purina had led the industry in nutrition packages, and we decided to incorporate that here with the operation at Laue Ranch and have loved the results. In the grazing season of 2022, we decided to do trials on Purina products within the Laue Ranch herd.
We first started with the Wind and Rain All Season 4 Complete, mainly because they weren't on a mineral program previously to me coming in and working with their operation. So we ran that trial for a minimum of 90 days during the grazing season. We saw great results when calves hit the ground. That next winter, we tightened our calving window just by incorporating a simple mineral program like the Wind and Rain All Season 4 Mineral. That next grazing season, I talked to Brent and we thought we could increase our conception and we could decrease our calving window to have a smaller calving interval even more than the previous year. So I recommended using the Wind and Rain 7.5 Complete. So we increased their phosphorus by 3.5%, which was one of the main minerals that goes into fertility and reproduction. Come that next winter, we had then again succeeded. And utilizing the trials, we were able to track consumption, and then following that year into calving, Brent keeps very detailed records of when those calves are born, and so we physically had records on paper of when those calves were born in comparison to if that cow had a calf the previous year or when she calved the previous year and how she got bred following that. Now we are currently implementing the 7.5 Complete Avela 4 mineral program because we know that we can increase conception rates even further, we can better our colostrum quality, and we can increase our weaning weights here at Laue Ranch. We quickly realized that the results were true. We could see them on paper. They'd worked at the research farm and now they've worked at Laue's operation. So we figured that we could try them on the bulls as well. Overall, the herd bulls feeding the Wind and Rain Avela 4 mineral tubs in the wintertime, the tubs were just ideal because we could let the bulls control their own consumption. And bulls are hard on everything, so tubs were definitely the way to go versus the mineral feeders, as well as the developing bulls. They're on stress tubs and they get Availafor through their starter feed when they are weaned, so we knew that we wanted to continue feeding Availafor into their growing period and before we got them to grass. We've seen great results with the producers that have gotten these bulls as far as BSEs and fertility, and overall it's just helped the herd health of those bulls when they go to grass with their new herd.
A large factor in choosing to go with the full Purina program was the benefit of on-farm trials. We have tried different products within our own herd and have loved the results, and not just seeing it on a commercial or advertisement, but seeing the actual results on paper in the form of added pounds at weaning time or conception rate. With the help of Morgan and our Purina dealer, we have been able to significantly increase our conception rates on that second calf cow, which had been a struggle, and are now very pleased that they are maintaining a 365-day calving interval and have pushed themselves up above the rest of the cow herd. Our journey with the mineral package has come from salt blocks to high salt blocks, the Purina Wind and Rain 4 complete mineral, Purina Wind and Rain 7.5 complete mineral package, and now introducing the Availafor products to the herd. By utilizing the Purina product line with the Wind and Rain Availafor tub, we have been able to maximize the efficiency of the bulls, especially come semen testing time and performing the proper BSE.
Up next,
As we develop new technologies, I think that you will see the ability to raise even more beef with fewer cattle.
Purina isn't just about consistent cattle nutrition, it's about consistent customer relationships as well. Hear that story when The American Rancher continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to The American Rancher. When Brant Laue chose Purina as Laue Ranch's nutrition partner, he also chose a strong relationship with a team that helps deliver consistent quality in the elite Charolais bulls that Laue Ranch develops.
Whenever I step onto Laue Ranch, their operation instantly becomes my operation. I would never recommend anything to Brant or to Brent that I wouldn't use at home on my own herd, and I care about the results just as much as they do. I value each producer that they bring to their farm to sell them a bull, a cow-calf pair, a heifer pair, and I want them to be successful for the future of the beef industry, for the future of their cattle herd, and for the future of our partnership. I greatly value working with them and appreciate their business so much and the relationship that we've built in the last 4 years. The reason I do what I do as a livestock production specialist is the people that I get to work with every day. I love visiting ranches and different operations because no operation is the same. So it's a challenge every day trying to figure out the issues or maybe the future goals that they have. I always encourage my producers to have stretch goals, whether that's 5 or 10 years down the road, because that gives us a baseline of where we need to start and where we want to end up. And just like Laue Ranch, no goal is ever too big. We always want to improve, and I always want to help your operation improve. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do every day. And I get to be outside looking at cattle, enjoying this beautiful weather. So I think that's the second favorite thing about my job. And every time Brent or Brant calls me, they always want to go look at their cows. So I appreciate that and value that greatly.
So what does the future hold for the cattle industry? There are certain things I think about the cattle industry that they're immutable and that cannot be changed, and they might help define what the future of change is. For instance, you can't raise cattle like chickens or hogs or like modern dairying. Cattle have to be raised on large acreages of grass. They need a lot of human attention. They need cowboys to take care of them. So I think that the cattle industry, in that sense, won't change a lot. What will change are the genetics that are involved as we develop new technologies over time and new breeding patterns. I think that you will see the ability to raise even more beef with fewer cattle. If you think about it for a minute, when my grandfather weaned calves, he thought it was a really big deal to wean a 400-pound calf. Now, a lot of commercial men will wean 700 and 800-pound calves. And of course, some of my city friends will say, well, that's because of drugs and hormones, but it isn't. It's because of good old-fashioned selective breeding. You pick the Beau Ivos, and you pick the Fames, and you pick the animals that have the extreme genetic advantage, and you propagate those quality genetics to create those faster growing, easier converting calves. And maybe we think that we've hit the top of the curve right now, and cattle are as good as they're ever going to be. They can always be better. And selective breeding will take us new places that we haven't anticipated. Here at Laue Ranch, it's taken us to red and black Charolais, something that perhaps 30 years ago we would have thought was impossible. And what's next down the genetic road, we don't know, but we know it will be better for delivering high quality, economical beef to the consumer. One thing that will be important to the future of the cattle industry are new developments in health and nutrition options for our livestock. For instance, we developed a relationship with Purina on some of their new mineral products that we really think has advanced the general health and well-being of our cow herd and has helped us at weaning time, a high-stress time for your calf crop, to get them over that hump and make better beef. Put us in a position to have those bull calves ready to go into the feedlot and be prepared for our yearling sale season and give them a good grounding, even then going into their 2-year-old year, because we also sell 2-year-old bulls. So one of the important things in the future of the industry, and really isn't it like everything in America these days, it's technology, it's new developments. What's the next thing? And in the cattle industry, health and nutrition products that bring something new to the table are going to be an important part of the business.
Visit purinamills.com to locate a dealer near you and to find out more about how Purina can partner with you to help drive your operation's success. That's all the time we have today. We hope you enjoyed the show. To find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook or YouTube. I'm Pam Minnick for our entire American Rancher team. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.